pod real quick. We've obviously had a few more of our participants join us now. So there's definitely a broad sort of range of experience in the room and also sort of business age here. But these guys will obviously give you some more information on that shortly. Guys, just to let you know in advance, we have Jason for an hour and a half. He's already mentioned that he would really love to make this an intimate conversation, which gives us a lot of opportunity for Q&A here. So please feel free to pick his brain. Obviously, one of the most experienced heads in the game here and needs no introduction. But I'm just pretty much going to let you run this from here on out because I know that you're really keen to give most amount of value to our participants. So please take it away.
Perfect. Well, I like these sessions. I think they're small, they're intimate. For those of you who don't know, hey, Joel, what's going on? This gentleman, oh, he's right here. He moved on my screen. Gabe Yanez, he's Gabe NC Fit, very handsome man with the goatee. He is out of beautiful Texas. Gabe has been with NC Fit for many years. He started out with us running one of our corporate locations for Lucasfilms. So if you guys ever seen Star Wars, basically Gabe is one of the directors on that. I'm just kidding, but he ran the fitness center at Lucasfilms. From there, he then navigated through different parts of our organization, and currently he runs sales and marketing for NC Fit. And he's really good at webinars like this. I think he has a lot of value to add, but he also could help keep me on track with different subjects and different things that we could talk about today. So I'm really happy to have him with us. Thank you for putting your information in the chat box. You know, some of you guys might be wondering, why is that information relevant? Hi, Kiriana? Hopefully I got that right. Hi, Kiriana. Hi, Joel. Nice to see you guys. Joel, and for those of you just joining, I started off this conversation as trying to get a better understanding of where you guys are at in your business so we could tailor this conversation to really pack a big punch and add value. What would be really helpful for me is like gym size for Scott, for example. You know, it's not a huge, 110 square meters is like 1,200 square feet. Is that about right? It's not a huge space. Is that correct, Scott?
No, 1,100 square meters. It's massive.
Oh, 1,100.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a typo for sure.
I see 110.
Yeah, I wrote underneath it. Sorry, 1,100.
Hey,
probably one of the third biggest in the country, I think, in Australia. I have.
Scott, you were throwing me off, brother, because I'm looking
Sorry.
at it, I'm like, wow, this guy's got 300 members and 100 square meters.
No.
That's rocking and rolling, dude. So very, 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 very good. So I think where we should start, and Gabe, correct me if I'm wrong, we wanted to kind of start with this idea of like running a business and not a hobby, yeah?
Yeah. So thanks for the intro before, Jay, and pleasure to be here. I try to get the fancy background. Apparently my computer isn't new enough to put that, so excuse me for that. But super excited to be here, guys. My job here is just going to be to make sure I keep the big guy in line and moving him along. He has a lot of value to give, and you know, we want to make sure that we get the best out of these 90 minutes. So now that we have all this information here, Jay, I think that it's worth starting with this idea that, you know, and this might resonate a little bit more with some people and a little bit less, but I think it's a good foundation for where we want to take this conversation. And it's the idea of treating a business like a business and not a hobby. And I think that, you know, this is something that, you know, Jason and the entire team at NC Fit has really kind of evolved and learned through the years what that means, because obviously, you know, we're all here because we want to treat this business like a business, but because we came into this with such a passion for the gym and working out and fitness, sometimes we can end up treating it like a hobby. And Jason, take it from here on kind of what those differences are and some of the lessons that we've learned across the years.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, I'm looking at the different demographics here in groups, and obviously, did I do something? Is that a different, you guys can still, oh, that's a different
Sorry,
Jason.
that's another Jason.
Jason, you were throwing me off, brother. I was like, wait, did I just do something wrong?
Sorry, Matt. I have a bit of a special day with technology today, so.
Hey, all good. So, Jason, if you don't mind, if you want to just throw a little bit of information about yourself in the chat box, this way, Gabe, who's head of sales and marketing at NC Fit, and myself can address any questions. And as Hannah mentioned earlier in the conversation, you know, my role, again, my primary responsibility is, can each one of you guys walk away and be like, wow, like I learned something or I got something of substance, you know? And so starting off with, I want to kind of share a little bit more about NC Fit for those of you who are a little bit unfamiliar with us, and then dive in this idea of kind of running your business like a business and not a hobby. So NC Fit has 3 primary revenue streams. We started off with brick and mortar locations, very similar to yours, right? We started off with a single site that was 100 square meters, not 1,000 like Scott's, 100. And then we moved from there into a bigger location, a bigger location, a bigger location, a bigger location. Ultimately, the biggest location we got to was about 4,000 square meters. It was about 40,000 square feet. It was massive. And it was way too big, totally unnecessary. And we learned a lot through that experience. So NC Fit owns and operates brick and mortar just like you guys, which is what we're talking about today. We also have a secondary revenue stream of the business through corporate wellness, which is where Gabe started at Lucasfilms. We also manage and run locations for Western Digital globally. So we have locations all over the world there. And then the third vertical that we have is our digital vertical, which is 2 things. One is session plans and programming for gym owners, which hopefully you guys use. If you don't use, it's okay. We'll talk about that later. And the other is our end user app, which is a digital product for, you know, anybody in the garage. Then we have a digital product for gym owners and coaches. Then we have our brick and mortar, and we have our corporate. So hopefully that lays the framework. Across that framework, NC Fit has, you know, about 100 team members through coaches and administrative staff. And we've been in business since 2008. So we're coming up on year 15 here. I figured I'd ask you guys a couple of things. So I'm sharing a little bit about us. So let's talk about this. You know, whether you have 15 members and you just came out of a garage, or you have 300 members and you've kind of built a more secure, you know, not secure, but a more growth-minded business, or you're further in the stage, I should say. I think what's really important, and the first thing that we all need to ask ourselves is what am I uniquely good as a business owner? And I wish that if I can go back in time, and if I had a mentor come to me, which I had several mentors, but no one ever said this to me. I wish someone had said, hey, Jason, what are you uniquely good at in your business? And whatever that component is, you should be spending more time doing that than things that you aren't as good at. And what I found myself doing as the business was starting, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in this position, especially like Shay, as you're starting out, you're doing everything. You're coaching, you're doing the financing, you're doing everything. But what you might not be realizing is that you're spending a lot of time doing things that aren't driving much value for the business at all. For me, I would spend hours and hours a week trying to figure out QuickBooks. What I should have done is outsource that earlier and utilize those hours to go do things I was really good at, like sales, marketing, growth, business opportunities, etc. And so the first step to treating your business like a business and not a hobby is recognizing, what am I uniquely good at? And am I putting myself in a position to do those things? Or am I doing a bunch of other stuff because I think I have to, right? But if you suck at finance, you shouldn't be spending all your time there, because someone else could come and do that for a fraction of the time, the effort, and probably the money that you're spending on your own time. So I wanted to start off by sharing with that each one of us should reflect on, what are we uniquely good at? If it's coaching, let's roll. But if it's something else, if it's business development, if it's getting new leads, if it's talking to first time coming to it, you should be prioritizing that over the things that aren't moving the needle for the business. So one of the things I think is happening in our industry, and it has been for a long time, is this idea of a revolving door. And maybe some of you guys, out of curiosity, just looking through here, how many of you guys coach more than I don't know, more than 20 hours a week? Any of you guys coach more than 20 hours a week?
For those who are not familiar with Zoom, there's that reactions button down the bottom you can use.
I see Matt, he's shaking his hand. Yeah, Zach, so if you're coaching more than 20, 25 hours a week, it's something that you need to just consider. And I'm not saying this is like a huge red flag. If you're coaching like 40 or 50 hours a week, that would be a major issue. But what you want to be careful, and Matt and Zach in particular, is that if you're coaching 25, 30 hours a week, whatnot, you know, the Matt that comes in at 6 or 7 a.m. is not the same Matt that comes in at 6 p.m. You're exhausted, dude. Coaching is putting on a show, and it's very, very tiring. And so what I think happens to gym owners, including myself, I'm raising my hand, is that we get into what's called a revolving door process, where we work really hard to get a new lead in. That new lead comes in the gym. We're exhausted from coaching all these hours. We do a shitty job servicing them, and they end up going right back out the door. And so a really important thing that we need to recognize as owners is taking a hard look at how is the product on the floor that we're offering, because you guys are going to work really hard to get member referrals and all different things that I want to talk about today. But if you work really hard to get a lead in the door and they simply return right back out, the product on the floor is where we need to start with. So if you guys are coaching more than like that 25, et cetera, you might need to take a step back to get other coaches on the floor to optimize your performance of how people's experience is going to be. So those are the first two things I just want to touch base on. I'll stop rambling. Gabe, I don't know if you want to kind of steer it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys are getting that background, but anyway, Jay, yeah, and I think that, that's a really good place to start. And, one thing that from when I first came to NC Fit was really powerful for me, and I think it helps, instill this as part of your culture if you haven't already with your coaches. And Jason says this all the time, any member, no matter whether they've been at the gym for a week or a year or several years, is one bad experience from leaving. And I think that that's really powerful to keep in mind, because like Jason said, sometimes it's easy to get complacent with, hey, we have a good product on the gym floor, so it's not bad. And, that is where you can have that member that's been coming 2-3 months, maybe a year, but it's just one experience and they're like, I'm going to go look at something else. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind, and something that's been powerful to instill on our coaches and our teams across several locations. Jason, on this note of coaching too much where burnout is a possibility, I think that a really tough decision, or a kind of a tough like fork in the road that a lot of gym owners get to, is the point where, the writing's kind of on the wall, right? Like, I need to hire an extra coach. I might need to hire front desk, but they look at the P&L and they're like, where's the money going to come from to pay that extra coach, to pay that extra front desk? How do you make the decision on when it's the right time to take that leap that's super scary? And what's some advice on how to possibly make that first hire? Or, for someone like, forget the name here, that's been a 10-year affiliate, maybe make that big hire, right? Make that general manager hire that could be equally as intimidating for someone that's been around for a really long time. What's some advice there?
Yeah. So I'll start with the lower hanging fruit. So how many of you guys have a front desk, like attendance or front desk of any kind? If you don't, just like raise your hand real quick. Anybody? A couple of you guys. So 2 of you. Hiring a front desk. So here's the thing, and this is a really difficult conversation to have, but I think it's really important to recognize. If you don't think you have the money to hire a front desk or a coach, you're never going to have the money to hire a front desk or a coach unless you just do it. Meaning that the difficulty is that if you're working in your business nonstop all day, every day, you're not answering your emails in a timely manner. You're not answering the phone, right? You're not getting back to people in an effective manner. You're never going to build up the membership base to get to the point where you can feel comfortable hiring a coach. A question I'd have for all of you guys here is like, if we call your gym right now, would there be someone available to answer? And if I emailed you, how quickly do you think I can get a response? And I think that's really low hanging fruit, because what ends up happening is someone's going to call Scott's gym. And what do you think is the next immediate thing they're going to do? They're going to immediately go call Joel's gym. And I have no idea how far you guys are away from each other. I'm just making that up. But I think it's really important that when you're thinking about your business holistically, it's very difficult, because we're looking at it, we're saying, okay, well, my business is making $5,000 a month after rent. I'm taking home $1,000. I'm struggling. And you've been in this rut now for, let's just say, 6 months, maybe even a year. Something has to change to get you over the hump, to get you to generate more revenue. And oftentimes what that is freeing up your time to focus more on the business instead of in the business. And a great place to start is with front desk or in a coach. Now, in Scott's position, or some of you others in here, you might need to hire some type of operations manager, CFO. For me, in my case, our business, and I'll just be perfectly frank with you, our business was doing 7 figures a year in revenue, right? More 7 figures, in the 7 figures. And the only way I knew our business was making any money, the only way, is because the bank account was going in a slightly vertical direction. But I was freaking out. Every month I was freaking out. I didn't know where our money was being spent at. I was so in the weeds that I couldn't I was terrible at finance. So one day I was very, very fortunate. One of my really good friends is an expert at finance, and we went on a leap and we hired him. Within a month, he offset his salary because of all the expenses he recognized we were wasting, all the time that I was spending. I was able to go take that time to go build a business. Within 1 month's time, he offset his salary. So those are really good examples for you guys to think about as your business grows. What are the things that are keeping you up at night? What are the things that are freaking you out? And whatever those are, let's go find a solution for them. Because ultimately, if you've been in business for 2, 3, 4 years and you're not at a place where you can go take a vacation, or if you're not at a place where you could delegate things out, we got to start that process today. And I really want to make this more, you guys are all on different scales. So if you have something specific to ask, please let us know. But a great sign of knowing when to make a change is when you're freaking out a little bit and or your revenue is plateaued, your membership has plateaued, something needs to change. That's a good time to make an adjustment.
And one thing that's worked really well for us, in some of these hires that are a little scary and a little, on the riskier side, in that we're trying something for the first time, has been always instituting a probationary period, usually 30 to 90 days. We've had a lot of success with making it very clear and upfront that, hey, we want to try this out for a certain time period. And there's a very clear date where we're going to revisit how things are going, and we're going to make a very clear decision on whether to continue forward or not. And I think that that's been super beneficial for us because it just sets the expectation and creates the date. It puts the date on the calendar where, hey, Jason, we're going to meet in 60 days and we're going to have a conversation. And hopefully it's, hey, Jason, you're doing a great time. You've offset your salary. We want to keep you full time. And here it is. Or it can be a conversation where, hey, this just isn't working out. It's not the right fit. And you can move on instead of putting yourself in a position where you have to bring up the conversation, the tough conversation, for the wrong reason. So that's something we've had a lot of success with operation managers and kind of some bigger hires for the commercial gyms.
Yeah. Just kind of pausing there for a second, because like we could talk about so many areas of the business. Is there anything that we're speaking on right now that you guys are kind of looking at, like, okay, I want to dive deeper a little bit into that conversation? I mean, we really want this to be a little bit more interactive because we have an outline that we wanted to flow, but my goal, here I am. You guys have all coached classes, right? My goal as a coach is 3 things. Make sure people have a hell of a time, learn something new, and get in a good workout. Well, in this case, I don't really care if you get in a workout. I'm sure you guys do that. Yeah, do you want to have fun? Sure. Okay, that's fine. But I want you guys to learn something. So if you don't get anything from this call, then we totally failed. And that's unfortunate. So if you guys have questions, if you want to maybe put them in, I don't know if there's a question box or the chat box, that'd be great.
I'll keep an eye on the chat box, Jay. Joel had a question. He has a question for those that are a little bit more revenue oriented. So I'll pitch this to you, Jason. Is continual growth necessary to be successful? Or is it okay to just kind of like stay at a healthy number?
Yeah, I mean, Joel, here's what I'd ask you, brother, and I ask everybody on this call. Are people today, and if the answer is yes, right? I mean, you don't have to answer this, but a question you need to ask yourself is, am I reaching my potential? Is my business reaching its potential? Am I happy with its financial success and its contributions to others, right? You got to ask yourself those questions. I ask myself every single day, right? Like my wife and I had a talk about this over a year ago. I sat down with my wife and I said, honey, I shouldn't, whatever. I said, Ashley, we have 2 options here. Option A, we continue to build. With that, we'll be able to provide more opportunities for our team. And there will be some opportunities for us financially, but there will be more stress. Option B, we just keep things as is, and we won't be able to provide for more team members, and we'll do fine. Are you okay with me trying to take this other alternative? Because I'm not going to be satisfied just being mediocre, right? I want to build something special. So I think everybody on this call needs to ask themselves, like, what are my goals? Like if Shay says success for her is getting to 50 members, generating 10 grand a month, having, taking home 5-6 grand is a win for her. And I'm not saying you are, by the way, Shay. I'm just using you as an example. If that is your form of success, then who am I to say anything other, right? And with more members and with more staff and with more locations come more headache and problems. I assure you with that. So it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but it depends on what you want to do. You know, at NC Fit, we own or operate, I think it's like 22 locations right now. Each one of them seems to have different issues over time. And so anyways, so I guess to answer your question, Joel, I apologize. It really depends on what is Joel's goal, because I will never be the guy who says, hey, if Joel says that his happy and contentment is a great work-life balance where he's taking home 10 grand a month, right? But if you say, hey, I want to make, 500 grand a year, but I only want to work 3 hours a week and I'm not going to hire any more staff, I'll tell you that your expectation versus reality is offset,
So Jason has a really good question that I think takes us to the next topic that we wanted to cover on the outline, Jason. So Jason says that he made the leap and hired a head coach recently. Best decision he's ever made. But now he has questions about, providing the right amount of progression, personal growth, revenue opportunity for him, especially coming off the balance of having, some other staff at his gym that maybe are more on the part-time side. So Jay, this is actually something we covered on a webinar recently, and it's a really good question. What are some of the things that we've done, to provide trajectory and kind of give a very clear outline of what that looks like for the coaches on our at the commercial gyms?
Yeah, Jason, I think it's a really good question. And I will be the first to admit that I'm a really terrible manager. When I started the business, and maybe some of you can relate to this, I just assumed people would know what needs to get done. I would never create clear lines of expectations. Actually, probably still to this day, it probably drives Gabe nuts because I'm very vague in everything I say for some reason. It's just, I don't know why. It's a terrible habit of mine, but it's not good for the business. And so one of the things I would really recommend for you, Jason, as you grow your business, and if you identify key staff, if you're looking at these staff members or Scott or any of you guys who have team, and you're saying, dude, if we lost John, we would be in trouble, right? Then the business has a responsibility to retain John. And the step number one is clear and concise expectations of what his job actually is. So if I can go back in time, and I really wish I had done this, just have clear job descriptions, right? What the hell is John's job? And what is success? What is failure? And then also make sure you have all the legal jargon in there in terms of full-time, part-time, salaried, this, that. That ended up, we had to settle a lawsuit with one of our employees over something like that. Had we had a better job description and formality set up, we probably wouldn't have been sued as easily. So I'm just acknowledging that. So the step number one is having clear, concise job descriptions. The second thing I would say is have formal quarterly reviews. Jason, one of the areas that I've made mistakes in the past is that I would just like pull somebody to coffee and be like, hey, you're doing a great job. Or I'd pull somebody to coffee and be like, hey man, I think you could be doing this better. But I found that people want clear and concise direction. And when you sit down with them and you utilize a quarterly template and you say, hey, your job description is this, here are some areas of improvement, this is where you're excelling, but you actually like sit them down and really talk them through. It's much more rewarding for them than I realized. So number one, make sure the job is clearly communicated. Number two, set up these quarterly reviews so that you could have clear expectations. And then from there, I think it's your duty as the owner to create trajectory. And people want two things. And Gabe says this to me the other day. All right, maybe it was three things, Gabe. It was financial fulfillment. What was it? It was the three things, right, Gabe? You're saying that all employees want?
Yeah. So financial fulfillment, obviously kind of being, that's always key for people, but I think also feeling like there's opportunity to grow and learn. So making sure that they feel challenged and safe in the workplace and that they see their career going in a way that's positive. And then the third one is obviously feeling, tied to kind of like the mission of the company in general, that they feel that they're still moving in the same direction. And, as long as all three of those are in place, you're absolutely going to keep some people, keep everyone that feels that way.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. I knew I was missing something, so thank you for that. But Gabe actually was through, we were giving him I'll just say, this is very business minded. We were giving him a pay increase, okay? And as we were doing that, I was checking in with Gabe. I'm saying, hey, how are you doing? And he brought up the fact that, hey, these are the three things that he keeps in mind. And I think it's really relevant to everybody here, because are we paying people an appropriate wage is one factor. And most people didn't get into the fitness space to become gazillionaires. So there's also a second layer to that, which, are they aligned with your mission, your vision, and where you're going as a business is potentially just as important for some people, that they feel like they're doing good quality work, making a change in people's lives, but that they're aligned with the company that aligns with that for them. And then the third is that they feel like they're learning new things. And I think for us as owners, we need to sit back and take a hard look in the mirror and say, if our business has been the exact same for 8 years, a head coach is going to realize that over time, they probably have reached their ceiling, and you might lose some really great people. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. Otherwise, you have to find ways to compensate them accordingly. So just want to make sure we acknowledge that. By the way, if you have more questions, please put them in the chat box. Thank you for those, Jason. That was really nice.
And just to piggyback off of that, Jay, I think that equally as important as setting clear job descriptions in the beginning, I think it's very important to keep those job descriptions updated and like actually up to what that person is doing in their role. In small teams, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, you'll have people that, as they grow in the organization, they start picking up different hats, doing a little bit of social media here, they're doing a little bit of customer service there, which is perfectly fine. I think that we all operate in a space where you need those utility players. And that's one of the ways where you can provide trajectory to coaches, is to give them those extra responsibilities in the business. But I think it's incredibly important to make sure that with those extra responsibilities, even though, pay raises obviously can't happen every single time as much as we'd love them to, I think that just changing the job description to something that incorporates the new responsibilities, clearly communicates those to the person that you're giving the responsibilities to. It's not just this informal, like, hey, I'd like you to, do some social media stuff every now and then. But it also gives them a sense of, hey, I'm growing. My actual title is changing. The bullet points that I'm responsible for is changing. And that, I've experienced, managing what I think is a relatively young team, goes a really, really long way for people. And it can really, increase morale and keep energy super high, even though, a pay increase isn't going to happen every single time we do a review. So that stuff is super valuable. And I would keep that in mind as well.
I just wanted to ask you guys, how many of you guys, are all of you guys CrossFit affiliates, and do you have CrossFit in your name? If you just don't mind me asking, how many are all? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess my question, let me better articulate my question. When we rebranded years ago from NorCal, we rebranded from CrossFit Santa Clara to NorCal CrossFit. So we got more. So what happened is, when our business first started, we were CrossFit Santa Clara. Then we opened up CrossFit Mountain View. Then we opened up another CrossFit gym. And I wanted to have one brand across all of them as we started pushing, search engine optimization, all other kind of things. We wanted one brand. Well, over time, we then pivoted from NorCal to NorCal CrossFit, and then finally from NorCal CrossFit NC Fit in 2016. So a while ago. And we did that because we wanted to be more indicative of the programs we were offering, which was a variety of programs, not just traditional CrossFit. And we wanted to be in control of our own destiny. I was very connected to HQ, and for many reasons, I wanted to be in control of my own destiny and not be attached to something that we didn't have any control over. And I'm sure that if you had asked HQ, they probably would have agreed. They didn't want to be attached to something they didn't have any control over. That's why Reebok and CrossFit had the ability to separate. But the reason why I bring this up is not because of affiliate or non-affiliate. I think, do you? But if you are ever going to rebrand or adjust, one of our biggest lessons learned is that when we rebranded from NorCal CrossFit NC Fit, I thought that, hey, it's the same company, same owner, same company, same everything, right? We're just rebranding to be more indicative of what I was just sharing, right? We had a variety of different programs, et cetera. We had a lot of corporate wellness at the time. And what I didn't realize at the time is that all of our team and the coaches, they were connected to CrossFit. They were connected to that brand. And when they worked for a CrossFit company, it imparted some type of emotion. And so when we rebranded and I didn't give them anything else to hang on to, they didn't know. They were like a ship lost at sea because they weren't CrossFit, but I didn't really tell them who we were. I didn't do a good job of that. So if I can go back in time for any of you guys who are looking to maybe transition, or even if you're CrossFit, whatever, what you want to really focus on is, what is your company's core values? What do you guys stand for? Where are you guys going in the future? And making sure the whole team is aligned with that. And if they're not, the earlier you get them out of the way, the better. We've gone through a lot of team members, and I think if we had established that earlier with a North Star, it would have alleviated a lot of pain through the process. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I don't know if that's relevant to some of you guys who are thinking about maybe making some changes, but if you don't have your core values, your mission, your vision on paper, and all your staff doesn't know it, you're probably missing out on a critical component based on what Gabe is talking about with the 3 factors of why someone stays at your organization.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that, Jay, is that when it comes to core values, this stuff can seem a little, kind of corporate and abstract, and I get that, but they are super important, and they aren't something that, should really just come to you on, I'm going to go to the coffee shop and kind of scribble these down in a little bit. I think that it's really important to kind of get, any key stakeholders on your team together and really put some meaning behind these before putting them on paper. Because they really should serve as a North Star for the organization for years to come. I saw Scott had a question about how often NCFit does staff reviews. So Scott, we do something called a PADR, Performance and Development Review, for kind of like all the staff that aren't, well, for all the staff. But then we also have reviews for coaches that are separate. So we actually have our head coach actually watch a class, and that happens 3 times a year. The PADR happens 2 times a year. That's going to be your more, how are you performing in your job role in its entirety. But the coaches reviews are strictly what the class experience is like. And that actually, the way we do that is it's not done by surprise. They always know the class that they're going to be evaluated in. We don't think there's any added benefit of just kind of, surprising them with that. It's a pretty high pressure situation as it is. And then one of the head coaches literally stands on the back of class. They don't take class. They literally stand in the back and follow a process that we have that looks at everything from the intro to teaching to, charisma, all of that stuff, all through to minute 60. Then that's presented to the coach, and they're given a takeaway form on exactly what is expected that they, did really well, can improve, and then that is revisited the next time that they get evaluated. So coaches evaluations 3 times a year, PADRs twice a year. Anything you wanted to add to that, Jay?
No, that was really, really good. Thank you.
I think
did that answer
Jay,
your guys' question? By the way, Scott, did that answer your question? Okay, good.
I think that brings us to, something else that we had outlined that we wanted to talk to, and that's the importance of the product on the floor and how that plays into everything we're talking about, right? Like, you can have the right front desk staff, you can have the right coach, but if the product on the floor is lacking, what are we really doing here as a fitness business? So do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Jay?
So, when it comes to the product on the floor, it's an area that I'm very passionate about, as probably you guys are as well. We can work really hard to get new leads in if they have a poor experience. It's unfortunate. At NC Fit, we want to really have professional coaches who prepare and execute a phenomenal class. Number one is that people need to have fun. If they're not having fun, they're not coming back. And we've learned this, over the years. Like, do we really want them to, we will not be programming workouts like 5x1 back squat and go home. We just won't. And we won't do that because we really want to focus on having a premium experience where we believe that for most people, most of the time, they don't feel like they get a fulfilling workout unless they sweat a little bit. And I understand there might be debate here, but that's the way we do it. We do it because we're a for-profit business. And as a for-profit business, we need people to want to come back. And the way they want to come back is by having a hell of a lot of fun, number one, getting in a good workout, which normally, for most people, most of the time, including myself, they want to sweat a little bit. And if they feel like if they don't, they didn't get that. And then ultimately, we need our coaches responsible to teach something. So the way we do it at NC Fit is when we first started expanding from 1 location to 2 to 3 to 4, we were using Google Docs just to share the workout. And back in the day, that was fine, right? Back in the day, like a long time ago. But over time, we realized that our coaches were very inconsistent because you would give them the workout but that's just like giving them the steak and not giving them everything else to prepare the full meal. We never gave them the warm up, the skill session, none of that. So over time, what we did is we created our own app, and we created it for our own coaches. We had coaches all over the world where every day they read a development platform that goes over the session plan for that day, which includes the warm up, the scaling, the stimulus, the workout, a daily video. And we created these for ourselves to ultimately create guardrails on our gym. We don't want to be like Starbucks. We don't want everything to be 100% identical, but we want it to be very, very close. If you come in, you go experience a class here in the Bay Area, or you go experience a class of ours in China, I want it to be relatively the same. And so creating those guardrails through the session plans and the programming has been very helpful at NC Fit. We also have 3 primary programs. In our gyms, we generally run 2. One of them is an NCX. It's just fundamental strength and conditioning. Think about that as every day you're going to pull, press, squat. Like there's a strength session. You're going to kind of shift between those. And then you're going to do it anywhere from 12 to 20-minute conditioning workout every day. So when you refer to margins of your experience, the margins of the experience will start to reduce down. However, the competency of the athletes will start to increase because they're getting more exposure more often to a smaller amount of movements in this particular program. Whereas in our Metcon class, we'll have more margins, more exposure, which is fine for some people, but if you don't come in that often, we would actually recommend for you to come to our NCX class. So we have those 2 programs. We have every day the session plans and programming, but ultimately what it comes down to is we have a head coach at each location, which reviews each of the coach and instructor. And we do peer reviews. We do all the reviews that Gabe was talking about, and we have coaching seminars on a regular basis. So I know it's long-winded, but ultimately, the NC Fit Collective, which is session plans and programming, it's our product for our own coaches that we also then sell to other people.
Joel, I saw your question, but I think Kiriana's question is kind of on topic with what we're talking about now. She's asking about what the secret is to creating a fun class, if that's our, one of our primary objectives. You want to take that, Jay?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, Kiriana, it comes down to the instructor and them, this is going to sound, look, we are not your traditional old school. I taught CrossFit seminars for years and years and years. And I think the methodology is phenomenal, but we're trying to bridge the gap between running a for-profit business. And so what we need to focus on, I think, is having coaches that are charismatic, that are engaging, that make our members feel like they care, because they do care, and ultimately providing them that best hour of their day. And that ultimately comes down to the person and their care. They don't need to be running around jumping, jacking. They don't need to be super crazy. They could be low key, but they need to be able to make a connection to each member and make them feel like they care. Ultimately, that's going to enhance the member's experience. So it comes down to the coach.
And Kiriana, if I can distill it down to one thing, because I feel like sometimes a lot of coaches hear that, I want to make class fun, and they feel like they need to go almost above and beyond at the whiteboard with jokes and personality and like try and turn it to like, this over the top entertainment hour. I think that what it comes down to more is just if the coach is having fun, the class is going to have fun. And I think that that's really important. Having a coach that can, even on not their best day, kind of leave whatever is going on outside the gym at the door, and from minute 0 to minute 60, be able to have a good time themselves with the members, because their energy is always going to translate to what's going on with the members. I think that, if we distill it down to one thing, I think that that's the one thing.
And something else to think about for the team listening, everybody says that they have the best coaches in the world. Everybody says you have the best programming in the world. Everybody. It's just a non-factor. Like everybody talks about that. And so for us, when you scroll down on the link that I put in the comments, for us right now, this is where we're at as a business. And there's always going to be ebbs and flows and evolution. But today it's the energy, the pros, the results. That's what we're about at NC Fit. That's our NC Fit experience. And ultimately what it comes down to is that when we talk about GPP and all these different things, a lot of for the general person, they just want to know, hey, what am I getting myself into? We got the pros, we got energy, we're going to get great results. So that's kind of where we've leaned into, and it's been effective for us.
Yeah, super powerful not to lean into, like Jason said, what every other gym is going to say that they have, which is the best workouts, the best equipment, the best community, so on and so forth. You know, they're going to hear that from every gym. So just defining exactly what do we do different, I think has been super powerful for us. The other question Joel had, Jason, and I know that, you know, we've gotten this question a lot, and it's a good question. You know, especially early on in the business, did you find that you needed to consciously make a decision to orient towards the competitive athletes or the everyday athletes? Or did you find a way to kind of have the marry those side by side? And interested in there's, you know, a way to kind of balance those two without creating the usual cliques that form. I think we've gone through quite the evolution there.
Yeah. So just to kind of lay some framework, in 2008, for those of you who don't know, I won the CrossFit Games. I then competed professionally in CrossFit for the next decade. And during that time, yes, we definitely attracted some top level athletes, but that was never what our gym was about. And I knew that early on. You know, I started at a conventional gym when I was 15, and I've been in the fitness space my entire life. That's the only job I've ever had. And I knew that we need to be inclusive to run a for-profit business. If I only wanted competitors, how many people in your area are interested in functional training? Okay, X amount. Now, on top of that, I want just people who are interested in being competitive at the CrossFit Games. We're narrowing our demographics so much that it would be very difficult for us to run a successful business, nor was that what I aligned with personally, right? Even though I competed and I had a group of, let's just say 10 of us that competed at a high level, what I wanted to be about was the mom and dad and the entrepreneur and whoever who wanted to live freely and fully outside the gym and go smash it with their kids. That's what I align with from then and now even till today. So our business never evolved around competitive athletes. It was a piece of it, but we always made sure, and it was always from the top down, members are always priority number one. So if we were training and our training session went too long, that's it. We stopped. There's no negotiation. Members were always priority number one. And I think that culture has transcended years and years and years later. At NC Fit, we have something called NC Metcon, which is our primary program, which I spoke about. We also have a supplemental program called NC Compete. This is not a main focus for NC Fit, but it's a focus because what we had was we had people from our gym who were interested in competing. And so what we did is we made NC Compete 3 sessions. You have a morning session, an afternoon, and evening, for lack of a better term. But the middle session, the bulk of your day, is NC Metcon. So our Compete program revolves around NC Metcon. So if you want to be a competitor in our gym, which we have very few, but if you do, you're required or you're encouraged to take NC Metcon classes as well. And so, especially for our coaches, there's no, I mean, I take class almost every day. It's non-negotiable. If you're going to be at our gym and you're going to be pumping somebody else's programming, you got to be jumping into class as well. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at with it. Sorry, I could go on and on, Gabe. I apologize.
No, this is good. You know, the other side of that question, though, that I want to make sure we hit, because we've struggled with this too, is, you know, you mentioned trying to be inclusive, right? And trying to have something for everyone. You know, I think that sometimes gym owners kind of, you know, that could be a slippery slope where now you're offering yoga at the gym and you're offering, you know, a rowing class at the gym and you have an Olympic weightlifting class at the gym. You know, what's kind of the downfalls of having all these specialty classes? When does it make sense? And what have we learned in the 10 plus years?
Yeah, I mean, so guys, I mean, we've done everything. We've done Pilates, we've done spinning, we've done yoga, we've done kids class, we've done Oli, we've done, I mean, we've named, you name the program, we've probably tried it. I'm surprised we didn't try some of that, like, what is that, sheep, where you're doing like sheep yoga or whatever? That's only at Gabe's farm. Gabe lives on a farm. Anyways, ultimately what it comes down to is we were trying to be everything to everybody instead of just aligning with who are we, what programs we can provide. Let's lean into that. And we're not going to be for everybody. And that's okay. But every time, the problem is, and I'm sure you guys have had this happen before, you want to add a kids class. I'll use that as a great example. I have kids. I love kids. I think kids should be fitness, 100%. However, identifying someone on your staff who has a passion for it, who's credible, who's going to manage that, to build it up. All of a sudden, if that one person leaves, you no longer have a business, you have a hobby. if you don't have anybody to back them up, it just becomes this side project that over time, once that one figurehead leaves, that particular vertical is gone. And so what you want to think about is each avenue that I'm adding to my business in alignment with my core values? And is it a business or is it a hobby? Because when you start, for example, we had daycare at one of our locations one time. That was a terrible idea, terrible, because we couldn't, not only liability wise, but we didn't have anybody to run it. It was passionate except for one woman. So when she left, we were stuck with families and moms with their kids, and you don't want to piss off a mom with their kids. So that was a big learning lesson for me. So don't be everything to everybody. Pick what you want to do and go after that.
Kieran has another good question about anonymous member surveys. Do you recommend conducting them to get a gauge on customer satisfaction and suggestions for improvement? If so, how often? Yes, I think that they're a super valuable tool. We've done them in the past. I think we do them, Jason, twice a year for the commercial gyms.
Yeah, or if we have something that we want to do. So like a recommendation I would have for anybody who's interested in doing a survey is like, let's just say you want to make a big adjustment. So for us, we did a rate adjustment. So we increased rates of legacy members, which is a big deal, right? Or we want to, I don't know, open new hours, whatever. We would put out a member survey, and then with that survey, we'll receive the feedback. And even if the feedback isn't exactly what we were expecting, we could say, hey, based on your member feedback, we're doing this. So at least people feel like they're being heard when we make these major decisions.
What's been, this is a question from Jason, what has been the most worthwhile and fulfilling extra service that you've taken on with NC Fit?
Extra.
I mean, I think that you answered the kind of specialty classes, and I think that we found that we wanted to really focus on what we do and what we do well. But I mean, what this reminds me of is, events that we've had like the blood drive and things that we've done that have been, extra services in that they've been community events, but a little different than the usual, which is an in-house competition, for example.
Yeah, I would say if you're talking like extra services from a business perspective, I think growing in a corporate wellness has done a lot for our business. I don't think it's for everybody, but I think for us, it was a really nice way where we were able to grow without taking on outside funding, because we were able to sign major contracts with corporations. That took a lot of work and a lot of effort. It's not for everybody, but that's an additional revenue stream I think was really valuable for us, or additional service. In regards to what Gabe was talking about, I definitely think that blood drives are a phenomenal option. They're a really great way for you to engage with your membership base without it being a competition. It's going to attract new people around the area who just are coming to donate blood. And your members, it gives them a chance to sit down and actually talk to each other without breathing and sweating, just being kind of low key. They're sitting there donating. Afterwards, you have a, blow up house and some food. It's a really beautiful community engager and a great way to get people into your gym that maybe never would have because they're coming in to donate. So that's another thing I would say.
Cool. No new questions now. So guys, if you do have any questions, please put them in the question box, because I'm definitely keeping an eye there. But I think that one thing that we had on the outline, Jason, that we haven't dove into yet, that now might be a good time, is just different digital marketing and actual sales tactics that have been successful for us, both in the past and recently. I can kind of start us off, since this is what I do for the organization. We've definitely been in a place now here in California, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this in Australia, where we're just now getting to the point where things feel normal again and people want to come back in, might be comfortable coming back in. We had one location that was closed up until, when was Mountain View? When did we open Mountain View again?
Like, what was it, like 3 months ago? We were shut down for 13 months there.
Yeah. So a long time. And I think that we're finally in a place where we are trying everything and anything to just get those gyms rocking and rolling again. And these are three things that we've had really good recent success with that we wanted to share with you guys. I'll share the first one here. So we just started this 3 for 3. So in the recent past, we've really struggled with getting free trials into some of our locations. So for whatever reason, we have 4 locations in the Bay Area. We have one that we don't really have to pump too much effort to get just new people in the door. We have free trials coming in, it's in a good place, and we're just trying to service those and convert those to free members. But we've definitely had 2 other locations where it hasn't been the same. You know, they're a little tucked away. They don't have the amount of visibility that some other locations have in front of like a big storefront. So it's definitely been a challenge to get people in. And for the longest time, we've always operated where we have a free trial, right? And that's what we promote and that's what we emphasize is come in, try a free class, because we know that if people come in and try a class with our coaches, we're going to blow their socks off and they're going to join. We feel very confident about that. But for some reason, we just haven't gotten the amount of volume of free trials that we wanted. So we tried this idea of removing the free trial altogether and instead offering a new member promo that was 3 free classes or 3 classes for $3. So having a very nominal fee for what seems like, you know, getting a good deal, but what essentially for us serves as just getting people in the door for a free trial. And we've had immense success. I mean, I would safe to say that it's 5x the amount of people that we have walking through the door. And I think that what's going on and what kind of my hypothesis was with this when I wanted to try it out was there's just this really interesting psychology with people to where if it feels like a deal and it feels like exclusive, they're more likely to want to do it versus, oh, this is a free trial that I can try anytime. And obviously they want me to try a free trial so they can sell me on it. Whereas getting 3 classes for $3 just naturally feels like this huge bargain for people. So we've had an immense influx of people coming in. We've also had a lot of existing members that have shared this with friends and family because again, it feels like a deal. It feels like, hey, this is the perfect chance for you to come in, try a workout with me because they're running this crazy deal. Another benefit we found is the 3 classes versus the 1. And this is pretty interesting, and I'm sure you guys can relate. We've had people in the past that have come in for a 1 class free trial and say the workout is Fran, or say the workout has snatching, something where, you know, a beginner comes in or someone that isn't super experienced, they kind of have an awkward experience, not the best workout, they couldn't hit that intensity, and it just ends up being not the best workout for them to come in that day for you to really show them what you can do. So with these 3 classes, we now have a really good way to, if that first class or that second class ends up being this dud, we can suggest, hey, if you came for an NC Metcon class, come try NCX, or come the next day and it's bound to be a different workout where, you know, maybe it's simpler movements, maybe it's a little bit longer, they're going to get sweatier. It just gives us more of an opportunity to get a workout that's really going to hit home. So we had the one advantage of getting more people in the door because they feel like they have a deal. The second advantage of having those 3 classes. So in case we get a workout in there that just doesn't hit, we can have a second try. And then the third one, and what I think has been the most powerful, has been the whole reason that we make it a $3 that they have to pay to get in the door is because then we capture payment information. And so now the actual conversion isn't, hey, we're going to send you an email to sign up, or hey, come to the front desk and give us your credit card. No, it's none of that. Our coaches now have a very simple script of, hey, did you have a good time? You looked great out there. How do you want to continue? We have a 10 class session pack or a monthly membership. And as long as they say they want to go one way or the other, we can set you up. We have your card on file. You're all set. You're ready to go. It's such an easier conversation for the coach to have or the front desk to have. And it's a much easier conversation and a much easier conversion for the lead because we already have payment information captured. So this has been something that's been super successful for us. We're super excited. We were initially just going to run it as a month-long promo, but it's going to actually replace our free trial process moving forward. And we feel really good about it. Jay, do you want to talk about the NC Fit guarantee?
Yeah, I just think, Gabe, thanks for sharing that, man. I mean, guys, you know, like I said, I think that we just started rolling this out. This is not, you know, we've done a lot of things over the last 15 years. This one is doing something different than what we've seen in the past. It may or may not work for you, but it's our job to try and provide some value. And I think this is an example of that. I would highly recommend you trying it. I want to talk about the NC Fit guarantee. This is something else we just implemented. I don't even know if it's updated on our website yet. Do you know if it is, Gabe? I don't think it is. I don't think it's
I
on
don't
there
think so.
yet. No. So
But it's on the pamphlets and everything, all the print stuff that we have in the gyms already.
okay. So yeah, this is something I think it's really powerful. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. Um, you know, I'm a big believer that the customer is always right. I'm a big believer that we should over service all the time. And we got rid of our contracts. We got rid of all of it because if someone ever came to me and they weren't happy with their service, I would always refund them. Always. Like it was I live by like the blackjack poker game where essentially you always live by the code, and over time you'll be successful. Every now and then you might get screwed by a member. I get it, but in general, over time you'll be fine. And it's because you guys know how it is. If someone loves you, they'll tell one friend. If someone hates you, they'll tell 10. So because we don't offer contracts anymore, we're just month to month. We have the punch cards. We were thinking about this NC Fit guarantee, and what it is that hey, sign up with NC Fit, and you pay your initiate whatever, right? You pay your first month, and if after 30 days you've came in 12 times and you do not like us, we'll refund your money 100%. And what that really does is it put our money where our mouth is, and it lets them know just how serious we are about them getting results and how serious we are about providing them a premium product. So those are two things we've incorporated, the 3 for 3, and in particular the NC Fit guarantee. It also gives our sales team or our coaches good ammunition. Like, hey, sign up today, right? Come for the next month. Come in 12 times. We want you to come in. And if you don't like it, we'll refund your money. But that's the caveat, is you have to come in enough times to experience it. If you just come in once, we're not going to refund your money. That's right, Gabe, right? If they have to come in 12 times, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So those are two things that are fresh on my mind, and I really think they're valuable. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
And then obviously we do have a member referral campaign, and this is always running. So we always offer a free month to any member that brings someone in and ends up signing up. The one thing that we are revamping as of late is really trying to hone what our communications and touch points look like immediately after someone signs up, to make sure that they're aware that we have this referral campaign, and repeating things constantly. One thing that I've learned in my time in marketing and sales is how much repetition is required for someone to take action. I read this, I forget where, but I repeat it all the time. And it's that it takes an average of 7 touch points for someone to make, whatever it is you're trying to have them do. And I think that that's important to keep in mind, because you might have a referral program, but telling someone that signed up once about your referral program is a miss. There has to be communication in place where they're hearing that time and time and time again. And again, this might not be the best example of having to tell them 7 times, but just making sure that it's not, hey, when you sign up, that first email says, oh, and by the way, we have a referral program, and they never hear about it again. I think having a sign for it in the bathroom, maybe. I think having your front desk have a sign for it. I think mentioning it in that email, mentioning it again in an email that comes after their first month, having your coaches mention it maybe, once a month. Hey, just a reminder to everyone, we have a referral program, having it on the whiteboard. That right there is now 6 times where they have seen that referral program, that it's not going to feel like you're repeating it time and time again, but they're just going to constantly see it in the bathroom, at the front desk, on the whiteboard. The coach mentioned it, got it in my email. Maybe when they get it, that email 1 month in, that's the time they're like, hey, I got my buddy Jason who's been looking for a gym. I'm going to forward him this email and see if he wants to check it out. Because if you just say it once, it's just not enough. And that goes for anything, sales and marketing. Repetition and omnipresence is incredibly important, and something that a lot of people don't stress enough. And they'll just say it once, an offer or anything, and they're like, well, that didn't work. It's not that it didn't work. It's that it takes a lot more repetition than a lot of people realize. So make sure that you kind of keep that in mind.
Did I mention,
said,
Gabe, that we put out the best session plans and programming through the NC Fit Collective? Did I mention that?
No, but you have to mention it 5 more times before we're done.
That is the same session plans and program that we use across all of our sites, so it can't suck. And it's available now. No, anyways, what's next, Gabe?
Well, we have some good questions here. So Scott asks, have you always done your marketing in-house, hiring staff specifically to do sales, or have we used external companies? So an interesting answer to this, Scott, and something that we've, again, a lot of these things are, I say recently, just because, COVID really kind of shook us to change a lot of things. I think that before, we were operating in a way where, we were a little fat and happy. And I think that, COVID has really forced us to dial in our sales and marketing because we've had to. So that's why a lot of these things I say are as of late. But one recent change that we've made is actually empowering the head coaches at our gyms to also serve as the sales responsibles for their locations. And we've actually done that by instituting a commission program with them, where they are getting a commission on everyone that they bring in. And it's only the head coaches. So the head coaches are kind of responsible. And we've definitely seen success with that. But with that being said, it's actually been a huge, or I wouldn't say a huge challenge, but definitely a challenge in making the shift of having our coaches be more sales minded. For a long time at NC Fit, the culture was that coaches coached and that's it. We had the best coaches in the world and they had the best experience from minute 0 to minute 60, but that's kind of all they did. So it's very difficult to then, make this change where it was like, well, coaching is great, but if we don't get people in the door, you're not going to have classes to coach anymore. So the business has a necessity to change this role a little bit and now have you responsible for not only coaching, but making sure that if a lead comes in the door, you're the one that's making sure that we convert them on the floor and not just doing what we did before, which was, hey, here's the email of our general manager, she'll reach out and take care of it. But really taking responsibility yourself as a coach to say, hey, here are our membership options. How would you like to continue? What can I help you? And actually doing that on the gym floor. Because one thing that, I feel a lot of people make this mistake in sales is, if somebody says, oh, I'll sign up when I get home, it's like, oh, perfect. Like you'll take care of it. But we all know what happens. You get home, the kid got sick, or you got busy, you hit traffic, you forgot, not a good time. And now what happens? You had every intention of signing up, but you just don't. And another month goes by, 2 months go by. And I think that it's a missed opportunity especially if we're really trying to grow our businesses, to not make sure that we're trying to close every sale on the gym floor before people leave. And I know that can sometimes come off as, well, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be salesy. But one thing that I've preached to the head coaches that have become sales positions for our organization is that we have to remember that we're actually performing a service that is incredibly valuable for people. And I think that it's our responsibility, if they made the decision to come in and try a class out, they're half of the way there. They want to join, they want to make this decision. I think it's up to us to facilitate that by making sure that they make the commitment at the gym and on site, instead of letting them, finish that sale where it may or may not happen when they get home. So that's been a recent change that we've been doing. We do most of our marketing in-house, and that we've never really used an agency in the past. We do all our marketing organically. And then for the sales side, we now have our head coaches really, spearheading that.
And to answer your question, Scott, just real quickly, it's equivalent, correct me if I'm wrong, Gabe, equivalent to the first month's equivalent. It's like $150, right? Isn't it?
I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure of the specifics. Matt would be the one to ask.
I'm almost positive. And this is a really good example of, like, we don't know if there's a question you guys asked that I don't know specifically, or Gabe, we will go to our team and find out. We're not in the weeds necessarily. So Gabe is sales and marketing. Matt is our CFO and president of NC Fit. He runs the financials. I'm 99% sure that for every new member that enrolls, they get 10% of, like, so if it's like, let's just say it's a session pack and it's $200, they make $20. If it's $300, they make $30, if I'm not mistaken. But if it's a monthly membership, I think it's equivalent to the first month's dues or half of it. We have some people making some substantial money on their commissions. And if for anybody specifically wanting that information, I can get you exact numbers. But it's roughly that. Roughly that. And if they sell PT, I think it's the same thing too, by the way.
Make sure I'm on mute, not on mute. Jason has a questions about describing our experience with on-ramp programs, beginner classes, and which format we've settled on this. So we have quite a history with these. Jason, you wanna break that down?
Yeah, I mean, I could write a whole book on this. We've done literally, Jason. I mean, I hate to exaggerate that so much. It's just literally everything. I mean, we've gone from nothing to 8 weeks. We've even gone so far down the pipeline that at one point we stopped taking on new members completely. We said we're not enrolling anybody, and then I freaked out and we ended up enrolling people again. But we stopped enrolling people for like a month or two because we felt like the quality, we weren't there, and that's a whole nother story. But anyways, where we've gotten to after many, many years is that if someone goes through a 3-day on-ramp, 5-day on-ramp, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even a month, if they move like shit day one and they don't know what's going on, they're probably going to move still pretty bad and not perfect in a week. It's just the way it is, in my opinion. And so what we found to be the best experience for our members traditionally was just allowing them into classes and letting our coach do their job. However, recently we've taken back a stance where it's not necessarily we want to onboard people with like a movement screening or teach them the 9 fundamental movements. That's not what we're trying to do. What we want to try and do is include them in our community in a more effective way. Right now, when someone signs up and they sign up online and they come in for class, that's a pretty poor experience for a premium product. If people are paying $226, we need to provide a more premium onboarding process, and we're failing right now, if I'm being blunt. So what we're going to do is we're going to charge a $99, or maybe I think we're actually going to keep it at $49 starting next month, where it's an onboarding session. So someone comes in, we have one of our coaches meet with them, talk about, hey, this is how you use our app. This is how you enter into classes. This is this. Just give them a premium experience and meet them where they're at. We're splitting it into 3 criteria. If you're someone that's like brand new to fitness, we're going to do this with you. If you've been around fitness a little bit, we're going to do this. And if you're more experienced, maybe we start teaching you the muscle up. But that onboarding session, its only goal is make them feel the love when they're starting there versus trying to get them to a point where they could enter into classes more effectively, because that wasn't working for us. So that's kind of where we're at with it. Making them feel loved, giving them a premium experience. It'd be like if you went into, a premium store and you didn't get a bag or something when you left. It's like, dude, that's not right. I feel like that's what we're doing right now. So we gotta set our game up.
Yeah, big evolution there. Scott, to your question about how we made the change to have them actually pay the $3 and the success we've had there, and a lot of facilities in your town offering 1 or even 2 weeks free. I think that one way to look at it, and, I'm not 100% positive that this is the case, but, I think there's something there. If everyone is doing a week or 2 weeks free, one thing that could set you apart is being the fact that you don't do that. We don't offer something free. We're kind of up here in that the best we have for you is 3 classes for $3 as an intro deal. I think the reason that we've had success is because this finally differentiated us in that, we have something to offer that's of great value, because people know that, our classes are $25 each class. It's a $75 value that you're getting for $3. Whereas I think that when everyone is giving you a week free, 2 weeks free, they're always doing that because they want you to convert, and there isn't that, it kind of has that promo value there. So, I think something to keep in mind, and I saw your comment there. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, I would just add one last thing on the 3 for 3. I know we've kind of like belabored on it a little bit, but I mean, I think it's a very important note too that Gabe made, where sometimes when I sign up for a free thing, which I don't really know the last time I signed up for anything for free, but if you think about it, you're always expecting, it's like when you're at a hotel and someone offers you to do like that whole timeshare thing, that the entire time they're just gonna try and sell you. And I think this is a little bit different because you're paying for something. So you're assuming like, hey, these dudes are not gonna try and close me. I'm paying for 3 sessions the same way as someone else would. And I'd expect them not to try and sell me the entire time. Whereas if it's a free trial, I think it's a little bit different. So
I hate to jump in and interrupt here, but I love at the moment, and I would love your opinion, guys, and your feedback. Who of you looked at the Academy as a free offer and kind of went, and was that a point at which you kind of considered, should I be involved in the Fitbox Business Academy or not? Because I can speak from the way that we've structured this program that it's been a struggle for us getting people on board because it is a free program. So I think the 3 for 3 probably speaks to the fact that people value it a bit more when they put something down for it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just another example there, we ran a coaches development course, ProDev, a version of it that was free. And even though, we got a lot of initial signups, a lot of people signed up, we saw a very, very significant drop off in participation. And when we ran pretty much exactly the same program with a price attached to it, we had a lot more people stay on. And I think it just speaks to the fact that people put value in what they're paying for. And sometimes, we want to offer something that's free because it makes it more accessible. But I think that sometimes it could be a detriment to people feeling like they have skin in the game and wanting to see it through. Again, not all the time, but it's definitely something that plays into the psychology of, hey, I paid X amount for this. Like, I'm going to take it seriously versus like, oh, this thing was free.
And I just wanted to kind of highlight for Shay, curious to know your onboarding process in terms of new people. And one of the things that we've done a much better job at NC Fit is like, we're as locked and dialed on this onboarding and following up with cancellations as you could we're biased, but I think we're as locked in as you can get at this point. And I don't know, Gabe, do you want to talk about what the expectation is for the head coaches? Because Gabe's having weekly sales call right now with the head coaches who are getting all these new leads. And do you want to talk through like what that process looks like?
Yeah, sure. I think that, like I said before, it's been a little bit of a slow process in that it's been a lot of change for our head coaches. And obviously their bread and butter is coaching and managing the team at their respective locations to ensure that we have the best product on the gym floor. So there's also that balance of, yes, we want them to sell and it's incredibly important, but we also don't want to completely turn them away from, what they love doing and what they're really best at. So I think that there's been that balance, but the expectation has been clear that, every lead and everyone that signs up, whether it's for previously a free trial or now 3 for 3, their responsibility is to make sure that they're establishing contact as soon as possible. One thing Jason mentioned early on was, if someone signs up for, your gym and they don't hear back, the next thing they're going to do is sign up for the gym that's next closest, or they're just going to disregard you altogether because it was a poor experience. So the expectation right now for our head coaches is just to make sure that we're establishing contact as quick as possible and making sure that we're coordinating so that we know when these new leads are coming in for their first, second, and third class, so that we can sell them accordingly in those 3 classes, so that, we can communicate as a team, hey, Jason's coming up on his 3rd class of his 3 for 3. Let's make sure we have that conversation on the gym floor of how he wants to continue. Or, one other thing that we started doing now is making sure that in the beginning of class, all coaches are identifying, who in that class is a new lead, someone trying this out, so that they can make sure to kind of tailor the experience for that person, which has been incredibly important. Scott asks how our head coaches are set up, salary plus commission or per hour. Jay, you want to take that?
Yeah, so the way that NC Fit works is we have full-time employees, we have part-time employees. Everybody's W-2. There is no 1099 contractors. Overseas, actually, that's not fair. I apologize. Overseas, we do have a few contractors, but they should be contractors. If they're working for us the right way, we're going to be W-2ing them. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the rules in Australia. I'm not. But if there's a difference between a 1099 and a contractor, or excuse me, a contractor and a W-2 employee, you should definitely educate yourself on that, because the last thing you want is for that to come nip you in the butt. So I'll let you guys kind of figure that part out. But for us, if someone works over 30 hours a week, they're considered full-time. At that point, they'll be getting 401k, health benefits, all that good stuff. The way that we break down most head coaches' times, not all of them, but most, is they'll coach for, about 15 hours a week, right? And then they'll do, well, actually, let me take that back. The head coaches are probably 40-hour week salaried positions, okay? But they're paid different rates. So they have coaching rate, which is like, let's just say 15 to 20 hours. They have administrative rate, and then they have like a front desk rate or like an open gym rate. So there's different rates per hour based on what they're doing, but they're guaranteed that money monthly from NC Fit. So they know they're going to make, let's just say, the cigar argument, 80 grand a year, 50 grand a year, whatever it is. But if they aren't coaching a lot, they won't make as much. So like what was happening was we used to have people on salaries, and a lot of people just started taking advantage of the system a lot. And so what we do is we're saying, hey, you're guaranteed all this stuff if you work these hours. If you don't, then we need to make sure we settle that up and figure it out. But that's that point. There's also then commission on top of that. But one of the things our head coaches do, it's another plug for the NC Fit Collective, I think it's important for you guys to realize, is that our head coaches also spend that administrative time writing session plans and programming for the NC Fit Collective. So because we put out programming to many gyms worldwide, we have the resources to support some of our coaches on that. What I like about using them is that they're actual coaches who are on the floor coaching. And then in addition to that, they'll write 1 or 2 briefs a week, and they'll maybe support the programming team. So that's another one of their duties that some of these head coaches will have.
I know we're coming up on last 15 minutes here, so just want to make sure that if anyone has any questions on anything we've talked about, to make sure we get those answered before we finish up. One point that Jason brought up in the Jason brought up in the chat box that I can't highlight enough, and this was actually a really big mission of mine when I first joined NC Fit, and it took a little bit of work to get Jason to buy in. You know, we use Slack as a communication tool, and not saying that you need to use Slack. Slack is essentially, if you're not familiar, a messenger tool that allows us to have all communication for the organization in one place without cluttering email inboxes or having group text threads or anything like that. It's very work specific, so you can, you know, add attachments, you can hop on a quick call if you need to, you can create different groups, so on and so forth. And I think it's just been really good for us. And obviously this may not be the most important if you're operating with a small team, but I think that tools like this are worth instilling sooner rather than later, instead of waiting to the point where the team is so big that you need it, because then it could be really hard to get people to adopt. So just having clear communication, whatever it is you're using, and very clearly delineating like, hey, this is what we use for this type of communication is important. Just because communication is such an important piece of anything that you want to instill out there, anything that you want to communicate out there. If, you know, there's a breakdown in communication, there's going to be a breakdown in execution. So that's been a really big tool for us. So definitely check it out. I know they have free versions for pretty small teams. So, you know, there's no cost there if you want to get started. Matthew has a question. What is it like working with Kelly Starrett, good friend of NC Fit? And is there any collaboration with your program?
Yeah, our the NC Fit Collective actually gets NC Mobility as a program offering. We're probably pivoting that to a PDF for a different type of program offering, but yes, Kelly supports us big time to the NC Fit Collective. So I actually talked to him for a couple hours this morning. I love Kelly. Me, him, and Chris did a podcast on kids in training this morning. But yes, Kelly supports on the NC Fit Collective side. We also host monthly webinars through the NC Fit Collective, which might be nice for you guys to join in on at some point. I don't know if they're free, they're open to anybody. And we do different subjects every single month on different topics that are on our mind in our business.
Yeah, best way to stay in tune with the webinars that we have going on. Definitely follow us on Instagram if you don't already, at ncfit.collective. That's where we kind of post all that stuff that's going on. Jay, is there anything else you wanted to kind of wrap us up with? We're at 10 minutes.
I definitely want to, open up to Q&A. The one thing I'd say is like business mentorship. As your business starts to grow and you look at it from 50 members to 100 to 200 to 300 to whatever you have, you as an owner have to grow and evolve with it. And if you're not, and you're not reaching the potential that you have, or you're not reaching what you believe to be your success, you gotta realize that your role as the CEO, the founder, is going to evolve and grow over time. In the beginning, you might be coaching every class. And dude, it's a grind, right? Getting there at 5 a.m., staying there till 9, a free trial calls you, says they want to set up a session. They don't show up. You're pissed. Yeah, I get it. I've been there, right? But then that evolves. You find your first coach and it starts to be a little bit different. 2 coaches, 3 coaches. And then evolves. Soon you're no longer in the weeds as much, which is nice. But then you got to think about what is your responsibility. And your responsibility should be business development, should be growth for your team. And it should be making sure that your team feels aligned on a shared vision. And so you go from less like this in-person, I call it like direct labor, like it's direct labor, to more indirect labor, where now you need to be more of a business mentor. You need to be more aspirational, inspirational in what you do. And I think that's really important for you guys to recognize that as those ebbs and flows grow, you as your CEO need to also grow with it. And so you go from being in the business to being more of, you're trying to rally a team around you on a shared vision. And if you don't know what to do, you don't know how to do that, you don't know where to start, think about your membership base, think about your friends, think about your family, think about people within your circle, and start having business conversations with them that aren't just in the weeds of CrossFit, right? If you're going out to dinner and all you're talking about is the quarterfinals, you're really missing out on your potential as a business owner. Honestly, you should be going to dinner at times, right? If you want to talk about quarterfinals, go ahead and talk about that. But you should also be talking to people about things like business development, like legal issues, like these things, because all of us, whether we like it or not, we're in business. We're business owners. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. And I think that we need to do a better job, including myself, and raising my hand here too, of making sure that we allocate the time in our schedules to go meet with people to enhance us here just as much as for our business, just as much as we are trying to learn from Kelly Starrett mobility tools or Mike Bergner on how to snatch better. We also need to be meeting with people around us to learn business tools. So that's my kind of high level business motivation is you guys are all here for a reason, but let's take it a step further, you know?
Jason has a question. What area did you struggle to fall into once you stepped back from coaching and into the more business manager role?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Jason, 100% was the finance side, and then learning how to manage people. You know, everybody's going to be managed a little bit differently, and the sooner you realize that, the better, because they might not be managed the way you're managed, and that's okay. You know, you might be one of those people you don't want to be talked to at all. You don't care. You're just going to do your thing. But a lot of people want to know what success or failure is. And I remember this one time I had this conversation with this guy. I brought him up to my office, and I was like, "Hey, man, you know, I said something like, I think you could be doing a better job. And, or I don't think you're doing a very good job." And he's like, "Oh, well, like, you know, what do you want me to do?" I was like, "You know, just like, you know, coach better and like be around here more, be a better ambassador. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just do better." And he left. And like a month goes by and we have the exact same conversation. I think to myself, what the hell was I thinking? I gave no tangible items. I gave no concrete tools. All I said was do better. But if you don't define what that is, you don't clearly communicate what that is, that's a big red flag. So from a management perspective, if you're not that guy, then find somebody else on your team that could do that and articulate that better. And that's basically what I did. I mean, you can ask Gabe, on our team, of all of our team, pretty much nobody direct reports to me, more or less, because everybody goes through Matt, because I just am such a terrible, you know, I'm not good at it.
I won't confirm or deny. Any other questions or anything else you wanted to touch on, Jay? Or Hannah, anything else you wanted us to touch on?
Look, I just want to quickly acknowledge the level of self-awareness that Jason has in this moment. And I think a lot of gym and business owners probably suffer from that a little bit, where they're afraid to admit where their shortcomings or their passions might be within a business. So guys, if there's anything to take note of, that's a very, very strong one for sure. I think all of us in any stage of our career or business ownership can really learn from that. So yeah, and I super appreciate you being really candid about that, Jace.
Yeah, I mean, my goal and all of your goal on this line should be to establish yourself such a great team that we could be on this call, and it's pretty late for Gabe, right? It's like 11 o'clock where he's at PM right now. And here he is. That's why it's so dark out there in Texas. And he's on a farm, so there's no lights out there. And here he is, right, on this. And I can empower, or I know he's going to do such a great job that he could talk about these 3 for 3s and other things much better than I can. And so all of our goals should be to establish a team where, you know, if you're in a meeting, you don't really need to say much. on our weekly calls, you could ask Gabe, I really don't speak. Everybody else is reporting the news and I'm just sitting back. And that should be all of our goals. Or if you want to grow a bigger business. Now, if you're happy with, a single site, that's different. But for me, it's always been to establish a big team. And you got to be humble enough to realize what you're not good at and what you are good at so you can elevate the team in the process. I think that's important.
Amazing. I want to ask you one question just to close out, because I think I can sneak in 2 more minutes or so. What would be your number one piece of advice to somebody who was thinking about opening a gym at this point in time?
I would tell them to go sit in a sauna or go take a Go Ruck backpack and go out for a 10-mile ruck. And during that time, when they come back, they should have the answer to this question. What are you uniquely good at? And why would you be successful? What makes you have the confidence to go out and go open up a gym? Why? Why you? Is it because you like to work out? Is it because you've been a member at a gym for a year? Is it because you took your level 1? What is it? What makes you so confident that you could sign the lease, put your personal responsibility on that, and you're going to be successful? What is it? And if you could sit there and be like, dude, I know I can do this for these reasons, then more than likely you'll probably be successful. But if you're just doing it because whatever, that's not a great place to start.
Awesome.
Anything. Yeah.
No, I love that. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. Guys, I think we are done based on questions in the chat box. I hope that you all were able to take a stack of value from this. I certainly learned a lot. I will, like I mentioned, link the NC Fit webinars within the resources for this module on the Academy portal. So please let me know if you want any extra info on that. Guys, if there's anything you want to pass on to our participants in terms of following up on those finances or numbers that you mentioned, feel free to send that to me and I'll get that distributed to the team as well. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time, and Gabe, especially for you in what is approaching the middle of the night over there. So guys, we super appreciate your flexibility in making this timeline work. So thank you so much again. And I appreciate you being part of the Business Academy.
Yeah, thank you guys. We really appreciate your time. Gabe, thank you, brother. And yeah, looking forward to chatting again sometime soon. You guys can get a hold of us at the NC Fit Collective. I established a goal many, many years ago to rise the tides of our industry. And this is in direct alignment with that. So if you could learn from someone we could share to catapult you another year or two from here and not make the same mistakes we have, just hit us up. We'll be more than happy to share.
Great feedback, guys. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. We will catch you guys next week. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Cheers, David.
Thank you.